Justin Ledet versus Dustin Jacoby. I knew I was going to stumble on that on the first take, but I'm going to keep it in because it's all fucking shits and giggles around here. So we got minus 310 on Jacoby, and we got plus 255 on Justin Ledet. Let's start off with Justin Ledet, who's been in the UFC for a little bit longer now. 9-3, unfortunately, is on the back end of 3 straight losses right now. The Alexander Rakic fight, not too bad of a loss there. We obviously know all about Alexander Rakic and his skyrocket to the UFC title contention pretty much. Johnny Walker obviously went out there and just finished him in 15 seconds, so that's an unfortunate loss. And then Alexa Kamara just went out there and just beat him up pretty much. You know what I mean? It was a closer fight than obviously his previous two, but he still got outworked in that fight. And it's understandable as to why he's such a heavy underdog here. Not a lot of people are thinking that his game is truly growing, which makes it a little bit more difficult to really want to go out there and back him. But then also, you do have him on his first 3 fights in the UFC. He went out there and beat Chase Sherman, Mark Godbeer, and then Azuna Nwanyu. Man, that was a long time ago, and I kind of even forgot that Nwanyu it was in the UFC. God damn. How many fights did that guy even have in the UFC? Where is that? Yeah, he won on the Ultimate the Contender Series. Then he had 1 loss against Ledet, and then they cut him. Wow, that kind of sucks for Yan One. Anyway, getting back to Justin Ledet, the guy has solid boxing. That's where he really was able to get his work done in his first 3 UFC fights. Obviously, the Godbeer one, he was able to win by rear naked choke. But we all know that Godbeer is not all about that jiu-jitsu life or that wrestling life. But he was able to go and outbox Chase Sherman to a beautiful decision victory, and then had a little bit of a closer fight against Nwanyu. But it's not really evolving. That's the issue. You don't see him using his leg kicks as much. You don't see him going for takedowns, clinching up, or anything like that. The guy is just pretty much, he's going to go in there, try to get his hands going, kind of flat-footed as well, too, so that doesn't really help him. And I think Dustin Jacoby just has him pretty much beat everywhere. Much more solid kickboxing, obviously a ton of experience in the kickboxing world too. He did used to fight in the UFC as well, so this isn't just his UFC debut. This is his UFC return. He had a 2-fight a 2-fight run in the UFC back in 2012, I believe it was. I just want to confirm that number. 2011 and 2012. So he lost to Clifford Starks, then he lost to Chris Camozzi, who he now trains with over there at Factory X. So it's interesting to see how good of friends they've become, even though that they fought over 8 years ago now, coming in on 9 years actually. But yeah, so he got cut from the UFC after that, and then he really started to go, to all these different companies, and then he made a lot of his name in Glory, where he fought a bunch of big names, including Simon Marcus. Since his last kickboxing fight, or at least his Glory kickboxing fight, he has beaten Cody East, who's a former UFC guy, and they went out there and beat Ty Flores on the Contender Series in a fight that probably could have been stopped numerous times. He was absolutely lighting him up. Ty Flores had almost had no answer for him. It was tough for Flores to get anything off in that fight. So I think it's kind of going to look the same here with Dustin Jacoby going out there and just kind of, using leg kicks, using range, getting in and out with his movements. His elbows look beautiful too. That's something to keep in mind here. But I just think overall he's the much better fighter, moves a lot better too. Maybe middleweight, which is what he used to fight at in the UFC, wasn't the right choice for him. Now at light heavyweight, he's really coming into his own. I think, with Factory X behind him too, he's a much more complete fighter this time. So I think he'll have a little bit better of a run in the UFC. How old is he? Because he's been around for a while now too, 32. So he's probably in his prime at this point, 32, 33 years old. So it's a good time for him to really make a run at light heavyweight, which is pretty much wide open now with John Jones moving up to heavyweight. So that's something to keep in mind. But I like Jacoby here. Do I believe that he should be a minus 310 favorite? Probably not. I think that's a little bit too wide. I really don't want to go out there and parlay a guy like Jacoby. Though I do think he absolutely wins this fight. Like the Ledet, his only way to really win this fight is if he wants to start to initiate in the grappling and start to take this fight to the ground. But I don't think that's anything that we're really going to see coming from him in this fight against Jacoby. Jacoby seems like he's working on a takedown defense a little bit, so that's something to keep in mind. Not to mention just his movement too. He pivots well, he cuts angles well, so guys aren't really able to get on his hips the best. But his striking is just it's much better than Justin Ledet. So if this is just a pure striking fight, yeah, the minus 310 makes a little bit of sense. But the outside X factors of MMA, I believe this line should be slightly closer. So if there's some money that comes there on Justin Ledet and we get Jacoby down to like minus 250 ish, that's a little bit more of a reasonable line. But again, this kind of indicates with me saying that the line is a bit wide that there should be value on Ledet. There is no value on Ledet. I don't think that he wins this fight whatsoever. So I'm going with Dustin Jacoby to win this fight, probably by second round KO. I think he's just going to pour it on Ledet. Ledet's going to have a hard time getting out of there. And that should be the end of Justin Ledet's career. Unfortunately, that would be his fourth straight loss. And it's not often that you see fighters actually get another shot after 3 straight losses. So, but then again, he was dealt Alexander Rakic and Johnny Walker back-to-back fights. So maybe the UFC's cutting him a little bit of slack. But I do like Dustin Jacoby here. I think he's a much better fighter overall. And he's really going to get his striking going here, which should allow him to get a finish in the second round, at least in my opinion. So Dustin Jacoby to win this fight via second round TKO.